The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Hey everybody, it's Keefer and Kurre, our weekly session of just kind of talking about whatever's on our mind.
Yeah.
And you guys get all right along. Tony, how privileged of characters are they? We're just talking about Thanksgiving. I'm sure everybody's giving thanks. They can hear our weekly rambling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The thousands of folks who check us out every single week. And sometimes we talk about music. Sometimes we talk about relationships. And this week, we got to talk about college football, man.
Oh, man. Is there a better weekend or whole week, basically, for sports than this week every year on the calendar?
It's fantastic. Let me
rivalry weekend. If you love college football, rivalry weekend is just overload.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Just unbelievable.
Let me throw a question at you, my friend. And I know you jump really quick. So just think before you speak. Which game is bigger this weekend? Lane Kiffin's game or Ryan Day's game?
Yeah. Well, you know, which conference did I pay attention to more?
Well, you know, if Ryan Day could lose again.
Day has a big game this weekend?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it? I mean, it didn't mean anything last year. He's lost 4 in a row. He could lose again, and he's still going to be getting the bye. And then again, Lane Kiffin's got this situation where he's only lost 1 game. If he loses the Egg Bowl, and they're favored by 10.5, by the way, he loses the Egg Bowl. Not only does the new gig coming out doesn't feel as good because he's kind of like toying with people right now. We don't know if he's going to be taking the new gig during the season, before the playoffs, after the playoffs. We don't know what the situation. We're pretty sure he's not going to be staying at Ole Miss, correct?
I've predicted from the beginning I don't think he's staying, or he would have just said, I'm not going anywhere.
Exactly.
And the fact that he has not done that, but, you know, Lane Kiffin's a complicated guy. So to answer your question, I think the Lane Kiffin story is far more compelling because that's the obsession right now. Everybody's in the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes. Ryan Day can lose the 5th year in a row to Michigan. He's still going to go into the playoffs as one of the top seeds. I think even if he loses this week, he's still going to get a bye in the first round. They're not going to drop the number 1 team in the country. And Tony, you know my favorite subject about that. The schedule Ohio State has played this year is downright embarrassing. It is pathetic, pitiful. I mean, inexcusable. They've just come off a 5-week stretch against every bottom team in the Big Ten, teams that are so bad that Ohio State has typically been a 35 to 40 point favorite in a conference game. You don't ever see that in the SEC. No. There's no such thing as that.
Yeah, they're favored by 10.5 on the road at the Big House against Michigan this weekend. That is the smallest they've had since, of course, week 1 against the Texas Longhorns, which, of course, they won that game by 7. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to say. And again, you can make the argument that they've been favored by much because they're so much better, because they do have one of the best ATSs. I think they're 8-1 now against the spread, which is amazing because normally when you have a team that's ranked number 1 all year long, it's usually 5-5, 4-6 against the spread because they can't set the line high enough. They are still covering spreads, which is really amazing for Ohio State. So I don't know, and you know, I know how you feel about Michigan. That 10.5 line doesn't look like it's enough to me. And I'm wondering what that will tell us if the Wolverines knock off Ohio State. Again, they won the national championship last year and lost to the Wolverines. I'm wondering what that will tell us if they lose again, if he's a snake bit, if he's got the yips. I don't know what the situation is. Again, I think Ohio State fans all day long will take a national title over beating Michigan. But all I know is when I moved here in 1988, people said, I don't give a shit if we go 1-11. As long as we beat Auburn, I don't care. And I'm like, really? Are you sure?
You told me last year your brother, after losing to Michigan, said, oh, so what? We're in the playoffs. We lost to Michigan. It doesn't matter. But he changed his tune when they won the national championship,
just
correct?
Just a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, we got some games. And, you know, I cannot remember going into a weekend, too, on Friday and Saturday. And usually the Friday games aren't that good. The Friday games are fantastic.
Yeah, and that's what I want to emphasize, because we've got the starting lineup on Saturday where we can talk about all the big Saturday games. But I don't want to miss out on the Fridays, so I'm glad that we're going to spend some time on those today, because you mentioned Mississippi State at are actually Ole Miss at Mississippi State in Cowbell Hell, otherwise known as Stark Vegas. This is a huge rivalry game for people in the Magnolia State. This is what it's all about. And the storylines beyond this game are nobody's talking about the game or the matchup or the implications for Ole Miss. You just mentioned it. If they were to stumble against Mississippi State this week and lose their second game, they might be completely out of the playoffs. That would be how bad a loss this would be.
They're only favored by 7.5 on the road, and you've been nailing it all year long, man. SEC road games have never been tougher. Particularly when you get double digits, they are a pain in the ass.
And if you look at Mississippi State this year, they have played a home schedule that's just inconceivable. They played 4 of the playoff teams on their home field from last year. They beat Arizona State, who went to the semifinals last year. They also took Tennessee, who was not a playoff team last year, but a very good team. They took Tennessee and Texas, a playoff team, to overtime at Starkville. The only game they have not looked good, it's because they caught Georgia at the time where they're surging. So Georgia did blow them away. But the home schedule for Ole Miss, or for Mississippi State, now they got Ole Miss coming in, ranked, number 5 or 6 in the country with only 1 loss. And all the drama of the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes, where he is the golden boy. People are throwing, $90, $100 million at his feet, Tony. It's just bizarre. And supposedly he's going to make his announcement after the Egg Bowl, which is Friday or Saturday, presumably. But I've got a theory, and Terry Coy and I have done a lot of time because she's been a huge Lane Kiffin fan for a number of years. But she's down on him because she says, I feel like I've bought all of this hype about Lane being a changed man and all mature now and all, about family and everything else. She goes, Lane is worse than ever. Lane is just relishing in this spotlight.
Always loving it.
He is center stage and all the attention's on Lane. But how unfair, Tony, just off the top of your head, because I don't think you and I have talked about this, how unfair is it to these kids that have busted their ass and now are on the verge of taking him to the playoffs for the first time in his career? Lane Kiffin's never won anything. He's never won a championship. He's never even been to the playoffs in pro or college football.
Yeah, by the way, Mississippi State 7-3 against the spread. This is going to be a tricky game. And I will say this, I don't know. Listen, maybe back in the 60s, this is the first time Ole Miss, this is the best Ole Miss team we've seen record-wise in like 60
since
years.
Archie Manning, especially in 1969.
Yeah, in 60 years. So the fact that we're even talking about Ole Miss playing for a national championship is amazing. And certainly, for the longest time, I remember thinking to myself, well, why would you want to leave a school where you have no possibility of winning a national title? And that's why coaches left, right? They went to bigger schools, blue blood schools, because they had a better chance. Well, if you got a chance, a lot of people said at Dabo, he would take the Alabama job because you can't win a national title at Clemson. Well, he's won 2. So, I think you're spot on. He's got to win this football game, first of all. It's going to be a bad look for him.
And there doesn't seem to be any emphasis on the game. That's what's weird.
Yeah, I know it. And again, we're talking about a 7.5-point spread. I know the public money is going to be all over Mississippi in this game, but they're 6-4 against the spread. That's going to be a hell of a game. The Egg Bowl is going to be a fun game to watch.
This is an intense rivalry.
It really is.
It's really a game that means everything to people in that state, and it's just so fascinating that Kiffin is getting all this attention. In an era where let's just talk about the hypocrisy of the whole thing. You've got the governor of Louisiana, Landry, who was very involved in firing Brian Kelly, and now they're trying to hold out on his $50 million buyout. The LSU and the state, because Louisiana, for those of you maybe listening in other parts of the country or even the world, Louisiana is the most dysfunctional political state maybe in history. It's always been run by, the good old boys in the back room.
Everyone's Ed Orgeron. Just imagine everyone in Louisiana like Ed Orgeron.
It's a lot like that.
Yeah.
One of their most famous governors ever, the guy named Huey Long, that there's been great books written about, and he actually ascended from nothing to becoming governor of Louisiana. And he was so involved with LSU and the football program in the 1930s that he would lead the band on the field before the game. He wrote 2 fight songs that they still use to this day, the governor of Louisiana. That's how incestuous the whole deal is. And Landry said, whoever did this contract for Brian Kelly is an idiot. How can we be paying a guy $50 million who's failed? So he fired the Woodward, the athletic director, 2 days, because he said Scott Woodward will not be involved in the search for a new coach. And they told him to clean out his locker. He was fired. So now Landry and the good old boys in Louisiana, the governor, is kind of pulling the strings on this thing. And after complaining about what a ridiculous deal Kelly got and how outlandish it was, now reportedly, with him being the man in charge, they've offered Lane Kiffin a $90 million guaranteed package to come there. So the hypocrisy is rich.
And I had a really interesting conversation this morning with a friend of mine who he believes that Lane Kiffin, he's going to LSU, right? And I said, no. I said, he's going to Florida, right? And he's like, no, he's going to LSU. And I said, I don't think so. I think LSU is getting to the point where it's almost a laughing stock. It's funny because the last 3 coaches that have been there before Brian Kelly actually won national titles.
I know. I mean, when Les Miles and Ed Orgeron can win a national title.
Seriously. So that would be a good reason why you would think maybe Brian Kelly could actually pull it off at LSU. But to me, Lane's just a better fit. He's brown. He's tan. He likes palm trees. He's a California guy.
His wife
Florida.
Exactly.
The women are better looking down there, I think, for the most part. I think Lane wants to get out of the Baton Rouge, Old Miss back road kind of thing. He wants to be Hollywood, and I think he's going to get
Steve
that.
Steve Spurrier's his idol.
Yeah, no doubt. I think he's going to have a better shot. I have to ask you about another game though on that Friday.
All right.
What does Texas do?
Texas sucks. They're celebrating like the Super Bowl on Saturday when they beat Arkansas 52-37.
Yeah.
52-37, Tony, and that's like go crazy, everybody. We won a game.
All right, so look out now because we have A&M 11-0.
Yep.
Playing Texas 8-3. Have you seen the line?
I have not.
Would you like to take a stab at that line? A&M.
I would say Texas A&M maybe less, or let's say 2-point favorite.
It is 2.5. You are so
2.5. Wow.
That's why you have K4 wins. That's why you have 2.5. So you got A&M, who obviously is undefeated, sitting there. They've been, no one's talking about them. I mean, we don't talk about them. They're just kind of flying under the radar. They're undefeated. They lose this game. They've got the one loss. But they haven't played Georgia. They haven't played Alabama. You want to talk about a soft schedule in the SEC?
Let me rattle off the list who they've not
please,
played.
I'd love to hear it.
Alabama.
Yes.
Georgia.
Yes.
Ole Miss.
Yes.
Didn't play them.
No.
Tennessee.
No.
Vanderbilt. Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Didn't play any of them.
None of them.
Tony, what's the mathematical possibility they could miss the undisputed 6 best teams in the SEC right now? Because Texas is probably the next.
So I got to ask you the question. You know the question? Because Texas right now, according to the FBI, they have a 17% chance at making the playoffs with 3 losses if they beat A&M. If Texas beats A&M, and I know they suck, and I'm not saying they should.
Yeah,
but you can see where you could
put Texas in. You in there now.
You could see somebody at the CFP going, "Oh, wait a minute, we're gonna kick Texas out, even though they just beat A&M heads up." They were the preseason number 1 team. They just knocked off an undefeated SEC team that obviously didn't play anybody, and so we're going to leave Texas out, but we're going to put A&M in. I don't know. I don't know who you and obviously you got your Tulane is going to have your shot. It makes it it makes it a lot of fun. I would hope it happens just because I want to see a PETA squirm. We always love the chaos.
Oh yeah,
I think it'd be fantastic.
That's going to be high drama defined. Because, also to get to Atlanta, people aren't talking about this enough. We don't know to this day who's going to be in the SEC championship game in 2 weeks. Because if Texas beats Texas A&M, and they are playing in Austin, and I don't know if everybody remembers, last year Texas A&M was flying pretty high. They had lost 2 out of 3 going into the Texas game. It was the first time Texas and Texas A&M had played in over 10 years. Yeah. It was so hyped up. They're coming. Texas is coming to College Station. Texas just beat them like a drum last year. The game was boring. It was Texas A&M was never in the game. So, I wonder if you've got a little bit of the Auburn and Alabama kind of big brother, little brother kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You certainly have had that in Georgia for years with Georgia and Georgia Tech. It developed under the Dabo era with South Carolina and Clemson. All these big rivalry games. I just wonder if Texas A&M's got a bug in their head that, well, this is Texas.
Who are you picking in that game?
You know how much I despise Texas, but I burned in my memory, and now because they won the game, people just forgive and forget. Texas A&M played probably the worst half of football that any team has played in the entire country this year. They made teams like Charlotte and UAB look like national championship contenders. That first half against South Carolina, this team is undefeated. Tony, they could not have played any worse. I mean, it was 30-3 at halftime.
I know it.
30-3,
yeah,
27-point lead. And Shane Beamer, the great coach of the 3-6, and that's against the 3-6 team, the South Carolina Gamecocks at the time, who are now 3-7, because Shane Beamer, instead of trying to add to his lead and do the things he did in the first half to exploit Texas A&M, came out and tried to run the entire.
Well, he was too busy trying to work out the Virginia Tech job, which which went to someone else. Oh, by the way, I'm not in the mood for the Virginia Tech job and staying here in South Carolina. I'm like, you better make sure they wanted you to stay.
That was the worst,
because he should have been fired after that game. He should have been fired.
Exactly. Because I don't think Texas A&M won that game. I think South Carolina played not to lose it.
Absolutely. He should have been fired.
That's haunting me a little bit going into Texas, that A&M's capable of playing that poorly.
It would be so great for everything. It would be
Texas
so great
wins
for
this
you.
Game, it's going to be absolute chaos.
Oh, it is going to be awesome. It is going to be awesome. And then and
it's rivalry week too. We got to throw this in.
Yeah.
There's going to be a couple other teams that we don't expect to lose that are probably going to lose. That's what rivalry week's all about.
It happens every year. I don't think it's going to happen between Georgia and Georgia Tech. But do you remember what happened last? Do you remember what happened last year?
Oh yeah, 8
overtimes. Georgia Tech pushed them in Athens.
But you know what I'm hearing from Atlanta. I'm on the east side of town. I can just barely hear it. When it comes to Georgia Tech, I hear timber. The last 3 weeks, what the hell has happened to that team, Tony? They go to North Carolina State, they get boat raced. They go to Boston College, they have to kick a last-second field goal to beat awful Boston College, who I did say plus 14.5 was the best bet of the week last week.
Yes, you did.
And this week, Pittsburgh, who we saw Notre Dame just flatten the week before, Pittsburgh just ran Georgia Tech right out of their own stadium Saturday night. What has happened to that team?
Well, Georgia Tech cannot play from behind. Period. The only way they can play is when they have the lead, because they love to run the football. Yeah, I don't know what Haynes King, that did not look like the same guy. And it's funny because I've been off Georgia Tech. I haven't bet on them all year long, and I had them as part of my 3-team parlay. And of course,
I had a tussle earlier when I said Tech would beat Clemson, and you said you're out of your mind.
Yeah, I could not believe how bad that football team looked. All right, some other games I want to look at. Speaking of Clemson, South Carolina, and I'm bringing this up only because Clemson is an underdog at South Carolina by 2.5.
And South Carolina's 3-7.
What is the temperature?
Actually, they beat Coastal Carolina. Let me fix that. They're 4-6. Yeah.
Let's assume that Clemson loses that game this weekend. They're not bowl eligible, correct?
Clemson just got their 6th win this past week. They're 6-5.
Yeah, so they're going to play in a bowl game.
Probably the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Or
they may play the Birmingham Bowl. What?
That's very, very possible with Dabo's Birmingham roots. I'm sure they're be a big get.
What's the temperature like over in Clemson? What's the off season like for Dabo? Is it one of those things like, hey, listen, you were just really, really drunk last night. And you said some things you shouldn't have, so we're just going to pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah, well, and just close the door last year.
Yeah,
when he got into it with the fan on the talk show.
I know exactly right, and because you
remember what Dabo famously said last year. Well, I think these folks around here don't have enough appreciation for what we've already accomplished. Maybe we need to lessen expectations a little. Your son goes to Clemson. Is his expectations been
the only reason Clemson gets my son's $30,000 every year is because that damn football team that can't seem to find itself that lost.
And how's that investment?
They lost to Syracuse, for God's sakes. I mean, come on.
And look at Syracuse. What a dumpster fire. They've been getting beaten 50-0 every week.
Dude, they were down 21-0 without Notre Dame even touching the football offensively yet. I mean, it's horrible. It's terrible.
I mean, that's just a horrendous loss.
That is
in a year that Clemson has just been. I mean, this was a team talked about being the national championship contender.
So you're
Greg McElroy went on the air and said Cade Klubnik is the favorite in my mind to win the Heisman Trophy. Do you think Cade's going to get to go to New York?
Dude, he had 36 touchdowns and 6 picks last year. I mean, based on what we saw, and he was going in as a senior, you'd think. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's because Shipley left. I don't know if they. I don't know if they didn't transfer portal enough. I don't know what the hell happened. All I know is if you're buying stock, it's time to sell that crap now, because last year he's like buying. Yeah, the second half of the season they look really, really good, albeit they didn't play anybody. But I mean, this football team, preseason number 4, number 5 just fell off the face of the earth. Haven't been in the top 25 for the last 7 weeks. I'm just wondering though, as a fan, or as a booster, or as a person that perhaps gives a lot of money to Clemson because I'm an alumni, what am I asking of the Clemson athletic department right now to do with Dabo? Were we just acting like this didn't happen? We're going to give him another year? But the guy's won 2 national titles. You can't fire him.
I don't think they're going to fire him. I think they're going to have a sit down and say, Dabo, you've got to, it's 2025. It's different now. Okay, you took a stand and you didn't want to embrace all the changes and everything else, but to make your team competitive, building your own culture with your own players. I mean, it sounded really good in concept, but I can tell you that you look at the ultra successful programs. Ohio State's coming off winning a national championship. They spent $20 million last year and added Caleb Downs and a couple other players from the Southeastern Conference. Texas Tech this year. Texas Tech is the model, Tony. Mm-hmm. Texas Tech hired a guy named Joey McGuire, who had never been a head coach anywhere at any level higher than high school. He came from Cedarville High School, won 3 Texas championships in like 4A, like the middle level. He's the head coach at Texas Tech. They started him off at $3.5 million, where the Dabos of the world and Kalen DeBoers and all these other guys are making 11, 12, 13 million. Joey McGuire, a high school coach, $3.5 million. They spent Cody Campbell is a former Texas Tech lineman who now is a huge, successful oil guy. Mm-hmm. Cody Campbell, basically of his own money, spent $30 million to buy players this year. Isn't that the model now, Tony? If you were running a university, are you going to give Lane Kiffin $90 million to come there and coach? What I'm doing, I'm going to go find me a Joey McGuire and go spend $35 or $40 million on players.
We talked about this. If you're going to be a coach, you have to be good at X's and O's. You have to be good at recruiting. Those are the 2 things you had to be. If you were both, you were knock down, drag out, great hire. Now you have to be 3 things. You have to be a great recruiter. You have to be a great X and O's, and you have to be a great businessman. You need to make sure you go out there and you have to have a lot of cash. By the way, they're favored by 23.5 on the road at the Mountaineers, Mountain Mama. We'll see if the Mountaineers can pull something out of the this Texas Tech this weekend. They've only lost the 1 ball game. No, you're exactly right. I want to get back to the Dabo Swinney thing just real quickly.
Yeah. I
don't know if Dabo will listen. I don't know.
I don't think. I think.
I don't know if he should listen. He's 56 years old.
Yep.
He's got a lot left in the tank. He's got 15 years in, and he don't want to quit. He ain't gonna quit. He thinks he's still top of the world. And I love Dabo. I love his heart. I love his Christian. I love everything about him. But he's going to have to change. If, in fact, he decided to move on and go somewhere else, it'd be really interesting to see where he would want to go. I keep thinking to myself, if Kalen DeBoer somehow loses to Auburn, whatever reason, is no longer the coach at Alabama, would Alabama want Dabo Swinney? And the question I think is no. I think the answer is no. And I can't believe I'm saying that, because the guy, you look at his record, he's won 9 championships in the ACC. He's won 2 national titles. He's 56. He should be in the highlight of his career, yet the guy's got he's like damaged goods. It's weird. It's just it's strange.
How much of it? You have to ask, and again, I'm being fair because I don't have dislike for Dabo. I don't really revere him. I think he's been a stubborn mule with his head in the sand, that the game has changed and he's wanting it to be 1950 still. But you have to ask the question, when Clemson was flourishing, Chad Morris was his offensive coordinator, Brent Venables was his defensive coordinator. How important, we know Ed Orgeron won a national championship. Dave Aranda was his defensive coordinator, who's been head coach at Baylor ever since. And Joe Brady, who's now being mentioned for the job at LSU, is now the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. How critical is having the right coordinators? Because I don't think Clemson has been as good, especially since Brent Venables left. And you see Chad Morris, he had his chance at Arkansas and was absolutely bust as a head coach.
I think you're spot on. Yeah,
I think coordinators are huge.
Oh, big. And we hug Brent out. I hung him out before the season, and obviously he's a 10-point favorite against LSU this weekend, and he's obviously done something pretty incredible at Oklahoma. He seems like he's the real deal. I thought he was going to be kind of like the Chip Kelly kind of guy, the kind of guy that's a lousy head coach, but is a great coordinator, a Mike Shula type of guy. But he seems like
there's some guys that just can't handle having the big job.
But he seems like he seems like he's making his bed and building a pretty little nice nest there in Sooner Land.
And remember, Venables this year, Tony, accepted the fact that when management called him in, or the AD said, "Okay, Brent, you're a defensive genius, but you're not cutting it as a head coach." They brought this Charles Arbuckle in from Washington State, who brought Mateer with him, and they basically said, Arbuckle's going to run the offense. You're head coach, but you run the defense. And he was good with that.
Yep.
And a lot of guys' egos wouldn't have permitted it, but look what Oklahoma's results are. And it's ironic. Oklahoma's not there because of the brilliant offense and of Arbuckle and Mateer. They're there because Venables is full-time, even though he's head coach, is in charge of the defense. That's what's getting Oklahoma to the promised land this year.
Let's look at Saturday real quick. USC, or UCF, should I say, against BYU 17.5, UAB Tulsa 9.5, Vandy at Tennessee 3.
What a big game that is.
Hold your thought. Yep, huge. Missouri giving up 2.5 at Arkansas. What an ugly game. And Missouri's like, are you serious? Talk about a smelly fish. Oregon 6.5 at Washington. JM giving up 22.5 at Coastal Carolina. They're playing for their playoff lives. Chances are they're going to be 11-1 and sitting at home, which sucks. I hate it for them.
I predicted it last week. I think they got exposed. Washington State, who's a lower level big team, took them right to the mat in their home stadium Saturday, and James Addison survive, but and
they played well against Ole Miss. Washington State had a couple of games where they actually looked pretty good.
They did.
Then you got FSU playing for their playoff lives, if you will, not playoff lives, but bowl lives. They're 5-6, taking on Florida 3-8 at home.
Another dumpster fire.
Florida's -1.5, and then we got to talk about it because we hadn't talked about it yet. Alabama -5.5.
The Iron Bowl,
there's this game called the Iron Bowl that is 6:30 on Saturday.
First time in prime time in 11 years.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, that game is going to be following. It's right after the starting lineup. There's this television show called The Starting Lineup, by the way. It's really, really good. It's flipping great. It's local. It's got this guy named Keefer and Kurre. This guy named Legends on it. It's got Terry on. It's got Case Keefer's guy. It's brilliant. He does plays. It's a really funny show. It's a great show. It's on for half an hour from 10:30, 11 o'clock, and it's beating College Game Day here locally. We love that. They're going to have Miami, Pitt, LSU, Oklahoma, and Alabama, Auburn. That's your lineup on ABC's SEC lineup coming up on Saturday, so it's going to be fantastic. So we know the strange things happen at Auburn. Alabama has won 5 in a row. Is that right?
I think so, yes.
And I think in
two of those at Auburn, they won in miraculous fashion. They trailed the whole game the last two times they've been there. Remember the last time, the last play of the game, brilliant Hugh Freeze, who's now, pushing up daisies somewhere, although he's still alive. He might be planting them in his garden. But Hugh Freeze elected to go with a defense that only rushed two guys on the last play of the game from midfield. But for the 46-yard line,
has the throw of his
and
life.
Isaiah Bond got solo coverage in the end zone, the grave digger play, and Alabama on the last play of the game scored a touchdown to beat Auburn.
What was it? How far was that? 20? What was it? Was fourth and what was it? What was it? I mean, it was
fourth and 23 or something, from the 46-yard line, and they ran every receiver to one side and Bond to the other side, and somehow Auburn had solo coverage on their best receiver.
So I'm sitting there watching, looking at this game, and I went back through the history of it, and I was trying to find a trend. Trends are fun. Hey, Alabama's 7-1 the last blah 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 blah. Or they're third. Did you know that Alabama's 13-0 when they play the temperatures blah blah blah? There is absolutely Alabama's won 5 in a row. There's absolutely no trend here. There's nothing.
But this is startling, though. If you're an Alabama fan, that's why they're nervous. Alabama is 7-10 all time at Jordan-Hare, and that's through the Saban era. Remember the kick six? Saban fights for one more second so they can try a last-second field goal. It comes up short. Auburn runs it all the way for a touchdown to win the game. I mean, weird things happen to Alabama.
4-4 against the spread. I mean, it's just all blah. Over-unders, 4-4 over-unders. It's 48.5. It's just blah. It's like there's nothing. But that goes to show you, throw the record books out the window. This is a throw the records out the window game.
It is.
Period.
It is.
And you can bet that all the public money that don't know what's going on, they're going to be all over Alabama minus 5.5 against Auburn.
How do you react? I'm just curious from a fandom standpoint. Hugh Freeze told us all year that their 5-star recruit, heralded quarterback Deuce Knight, he's just not quite ready yet. Well, Deuce had his chance on Saturday. I know it was against Mercer. The first time he touched the ball, he took it 75 yards to the house. Hugh Freeze had on his roster this Ashton Daniels, the transfer from Stanford, who he didn't put in the game until they got desperate later in the year. And he's got Deuce Knight, one of the most celebrated recruits they've had in a long time. He never saw the field. Instead, he went out and spent millions of dollars on Jackson Arnold, the failed quarterback from Oklahoma.
He's a 5-star guy. Was Arnold a 5-star guy? Was he? He's a 5-star guy, wasn't he? Wasn't Arnold a 5-star guy?
When he came out of Texas and went to Oklahoma, Texas high school, went to Oklahoma. But he was benched at Oklahoma last year. And after the previous year,
didn't they do that with a guy named Bo Nix at Auburn too? A guy that was really good
and starring in the NFL now.
He went to Oregon.
He wasn't good enough to start at Auburn.
That should tell you something about your organization when you have an Arnold as a 5-star guy and a Bo Nix, who's by the way is playing the National Football League on Sundays, and they couldn't figure out how to get something out of his ass. And
this coaching staff has mismanaged. It's not the staff. The last 3 coaches there have mismanaged quarterbacks in a way, and in college, the quarterback is such a huge position. I mean, consider this. Remember, Hugh was actually bragging last year before the 2024 season that, we had the temptation to go out and spend a bunch of our NIL money on a quarterback, but I am all in with Peyton Thorne. He's our guy. He's going to take us to the promised land. Well, that blew up in about 2 weeks, and you benched him too. Hugh Freeze, the great quarterback whisperer hire at Auburn, mismanaged his roster, and right now, don't kid yourself. The number one dynamic that a coach has to achieve in is managing and putting together a really good roster. And boy, Auburn in the last 10 years has a F- in terms of roster building.
Let me ask you 2 questions here. First question is, what kind of hire do you think Auburn makes? Is it going to be a wow? Is it going to be, or can it be a wow? Is it even possible? Auburn's 5 years ago, I'd say they can make a wow hire. We were talking about Billy Cowher. We were talking about all these. come on, it ain't happened. But is there anybody that they could bring in that would be a wow hire right now at Auburn? And my second part of that question is, if Alabama does lose, what does that do for Kalen DeBoer? I don't think they fire him. I don't think he leaves. I don't think they
despite
the fact that the numbers are going down, I don't think he's going to take the Penn State job. I think that would be just amazing. I think he'd be an idiot for taking that job. But what do you think happens to him if he loses?
I think he's going to endure just the most harsh backlash ever.
6 losses in 2 years.
Alabama's got and Alabama fans are trying to keep their head above water here, but Alabama fans are concerned about this game because they know they're all in. If Auburn beats them, a team with a losing record right now, 5-6 for Auburn. If Auburn wins this game, Alabama's out of the playoffs. They're not only out of the SEC championship, they're not going to make the playoffs, Tony. The committee right now has them at number 10 on the 12-team list. A loss to Auburn, they drop out.
They're done. They're done.
And there's a lot of other things that are going to influence that, other games, but Alabama's in a tenuous position all of a sudden after being in the penthouse just going into the game against Oklahoma 2 weeks ago. Now they are in real danger. That's the second
year in a row, by the way, too. And these people that sit there and say, well, they lost to Oklahoma last year. This is a revenge game. Would you stop with the revenge game? There's no way.
You said that all year.
Hugh Freeze did it at Ole Miss, for God's sakes. I know Oklahoma. Yeah, revenge game. Guess what? Oklahoma just knocked you out again. Again, Oklahoma.
At home.
At home, you had a chance to put it away. You had the ball. You're down 2 late in the game. And seriously, you look at that game and like, how in the hell do you lose that game again? And now you put yourself in a position to be going to lose to Auburn at a 5.5-point dog. I'm telling you, man, strange things happen now. If that line gets up to 7, I'd be all over Auburn. I'd take Auburn all day plus 7.
Auburn's got nothing to lose. I mean, this is, every Auburn fan you talk to, Tony, says, it's been a disastrous season. We've lost our coach. But if we beat Alabama, 2025 is going to be remembered fondly forever.
It will be.
That's all they care about is ruining Alabama's season. I mean, the drama this weekend, and, I always talk about this. It's the greatest reality series that you could possibly ever watch because the twists and turns in a college football season and rivalry weekend is like finally getting to one of the chapters where all the stage is set for what's going to happen next. And we're living weird times because you got Alabama fans and you've got Georgia fans saying, I really don't even want to go to the SEC championship. Alabama needs to go because if they beat Auburn, they're in the SEC championship game. But I actually had a caller on the radio yesterday saying, I don't want Alabama to go to the SEC championship game. I said, well, dude, then you're not going to see them go to any games because they're going to be in the, Heart of Texas Bowl against Baylor or somebody.
They've been better off to beat Oklahoma and lose to Auburn. At least they'd have a better shot.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So
but
Alabama, it's all in Saturday night. I mean, if they don't win, they're not going to Atlanta and they're not going to the playoffs. And that's bitter medicine. Alabama fans can't even conceive those 2 points.
All right, so tell me what you want to happen. Who do you want to win between not who's going to win, but who do you want to win between Ole Miss and Mississippi State?
Ole Miss had such a great year, and Ole Miss, we haven't even talked about this. Probably the story of the year. You talk about a Cinderella story. What about Trinidad Chambliss, Tony?
Yeah.
This kid was playing at Ferris State. It's got 4,300 seats in their stadium. It's up in something Big Rapids, Michigan. I mean, it's the end of the
earth. Done a great. He's been developed very, very well.
This kid, I mean, what a phenomenon. This is like The Natural or Damn Yankees, the famous Broadway play where an old Senators fan makes a deal with the devil and comes back as a phenomenal player to beat the dreaded Yankees. I mean, this guy is that kind of storybook character. So just to keep that alive, Ole Miss has just had a fabulous season, and it really just turns the heat up. But I want Ole Miss to win only because too, if Lane Kiffin announces, I've got a deal, I'm going to be leaving to go to Florida, then what does Ole Miss do? Do you let him coach as a lame duck that team?
Why did he make that announcement? Why did he say he would make that announcement after the Egg Bowl?
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense at all. I don't know because
it's got to be a huge distraction for his players, and it's so unfair. Those kids, Ole Miss has been one of the great stories of the whole season.
Yeah, Georgia Tech. Who do you want to win?
Of Georgia, of course, because you
want Texas to beat A&M, don't you?
I kind of do. As much as I've driven Texas in the ground this year, because Texas, I don't care what the delusions say. Yeah. Texas is not going to the playoffs with 3. I don't think I'm going to go on a record right here. I don't think anybody, not a single team in the country, is going to go to the playoffs with 3 losses.
I think you're right. Kentucky, Louisville's. We haven't mentioned that. Kentucky's giving up 3.
Another team that's just Louisville. They lost to California 2 weeks ago.
They had a shot 3 weeks ago. 3 or 4 weeks ago. They were talked about one of the perennial teams.
They were a playoff fringe team. Then they go to SMU. How screwed up is that league? Right now, it looks like it's going to be SMU and Virginia in the championship game in the ACC. How weak is that?
I would love. Well, we had a chance it was going to be Duke with 4 losses at one point. Yeah. They controlled their own destiny with 4 losses. They could have had a 4-loss ACC champ. I'm praying that Ryan Day loses to Michigan. I don't like Ryan Day. I know he's a great coach.
I don't like him at all.
I think he's a pain in the ass. I think he's
but I don't
too much
like
Grecian.
Michigan either. So there's no good outcome in that.
Any thoughts on Miami Pitt? Miami giving up 7 to you. They're still on the outside looking in, but they're right there.
Miami's going up to Pittsburgh where it might be 25 degrees and raining and miserable. And Miami,
Pittsburgh's still playing. Pittsburgh's still playing for they still got something to play for, right?
They've still got a chance. If Virginia or SMU loses this weekend, that gives Miami and the Miami Pitt winner the other place in that championship game. So it's huge if one of those teams stumbles, which they don't figure to. Virginia hosts Virginia Tech. SMU goes to Berkeley, California for an Atlantic Coast Conference game against the California Bears. That's how screwed up our whole system is. But California just fired their coach yesterday. So who knows who's going to be even coaching. That's a hell of a thing. You get fired with 1 game left in the year, but he got fired yesterday, their coach Simon, because they lost to awful Stanford. And at one time, Tony, Stanford Cal was a huge game.
Oh, man.
That was the famous bands on the field game that John Elway led a comeback for Stanford. But they lost to Stanford, who's just awful. So they fired their coach. So you don't figure SMU or Virginia's going to lose this weekend. But if they do, the Pitt Miami winner gets in the ACC championship game.
Don't look now, but they say if he has a huge game, 3 touchdowns, 350 maybe, gets a victory at Neyland Stadium, your Vanderbilt quarterback may be your Heisman Trophy winner right now. And there's no reason why he shouldn't be. He's been playing lights out. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Threw for 496 yards in the game this past weekend. Diego Pavia is the other great story of the year. But I feel bad for Tennessee too, Tony, because watching them dismantle Florida, who's the most heartless, mercenary team of all time.
How many times you bet on them this year?
I'm 1-4 on the starting lineup. They did beat Texas for me, but of course we know why that was, because Texas sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
But the other 4 times I've been on board and convinced they're the best bet of the week, they not only didn't win, they didn't show up. That game against Tennessee was awful. But, Tennessee is like 3 plays away from being one of the top teams in the country.
I know it.
If they had a field goal kicker, they beat Georgia. If they don't throw a 99-yard pick 6 right before the first half, they might beat Alabama. And the Oklahoma game, they had 3 turnovers on 3 straight possessions in the second quarter and got behind 10 points. And that Oklahoma defense was the only defense that slowed them down. I think Tennessee is one of the best teams in America that's on the outside looking in.
Go ahead.
The winner of the Vanderbilt-Tennessee game, I think, I've been doing the 12 best teams. I think right now I'm ready to kick BYU out because Texas Tech, beat them handily.
Yep.
And BYU did win at Cincinnati, and I think they're a really good team. But I started thinking last night, if BYU played Tennessee or Vanderbilt right now, I don't think they would beat either one of those.
And that Cincinnati game was, and I had Cincinnati in that game, that was an impressive win. That's a tough place to win.
Oh, I know.
Up in Cincinnati.
And they've done it all year.
Yeah.
They've been in spots where you say, okay, this is the week they're going to get exposed. BYU is a deserving team right now, but I still can't I still think the competition day in, day out in the SEC, if they played on a neutral field, Tennessee or Vanderbilt, I think Tennessee or Vanderbilt would both beat BYU.
Do you want Oklahoma to beat LSU or LSU to beat Oklahoma? I think LSU's going to keep it close.
I know LSU's. Did you see what they did in Baton Rouge on a Saturday night?
I did.
13-10 against Western Kentucky.
I know it.
I think LSU. I think that interim staff is a bigger joke than the Florida interim staff. I don't think LSU will even be competitive at Oklahoma.
Any chance Washington knocks off Oregon? That was a huge victory for this past weekend.
I'll tell you why I really think that could happen. Washington's kind of flown under the radar all year. A pretty decent team, and there's no other explanation. Dan Lanning has been on every college football show the last 48 hours. His whole press conference after beating USC. Dan Lanning, who came from Alabama and Georgia to go to Oregon, he's an SEC guy. He's just trashing the SEC this week about how bad that it was like while they were beating cupcakes, we had to play one of the best teams in the country, USC. Well, that's kind of a stretch. USC's defense, I think you and I could start at nose tackle there. They're just awful. But I think he's already campaigning because I think in the back of his mind, he's trying to elevate their resume, which is not impressive. They've only played one top team, and that was Indiana, and they lost. He's been going on the campaign trail talking about how great Oregon's schedule is and all of their great wins, because I think in the back of his mind, going to Washington, I think he believes he might lose that game and be screwed for the playoffs.
Yeah,
so I think the Cougs the Huskies have a big chance to knock off Oregon and really cause some trauma here.
Washington 8-3 in the year, 5-5 against the spread. They've knocked off UCLA, Purdue, Illinois. They lost to Michigan. They beat Rutgers, Maryland. They lost to Ohio State by 18. Washington State, UC Davis, and Colorado State. They really haven't played a whole lot, but we're going to see what the Oregon Ducks had to give them.
And one other quick angle of that game, Washington's coach, Jed Fish, it's F-I-S-H or F-I-S-C-H, so not fish in like a fish, but Jed Fish is the head coach at Washington that nobody's ever heard of. He is a former player and graduate of the University of Florida. If they do not get Lane Kiffin, don't be shocked if Jed Fish becomes the next coach of the Florida Gators. He was at Arizona before this and brought them back from about 15 losing seasons to a couple bowl games and prominence. And he's done a great job at Washington, stepping in, replacing Kalen DeBoer. So that's a name nobody's ever heard of. Jed Fish is definitely in the hunt for the Florida job.
Assuming he doesn't get the head coaching job. Does Alex Mortensen win his final game as the head coach of the UAB Blazers? They got Tulsa this weekend. They're on the road. Tulsa is a really bad football team.
Really bad.
And they're giving up 9.5 to
That's
UAB.
bad versus bad.
Yeah, it really is.
I know you're a UAB guy. You've got it in your heart and you're involved with all those guys. But I tried to break it to you gently all season. UAB just doesn't have any players.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who the coach is. Dilfer failed miserably. Alex had the glorious win over Memphis where everything in the universe lined up.
Yeah, that was good.
But ever since, because you guys even had hopes that maybe he could.
Oh hell! After Memphis, Mark Ingram sitting there talking about them going to a bowl game. I'm like, dude, pump the brakes.
And reality
my friend.
Came back real quick when they traveled to UConn.
That switch went off as quick as it went on. I got news for you. It did.
And I feel bad because I want this program here to be successful.
Yeah, me too.
But I think Alex has a bright future, but I don't think it's at UAB.
You want to hear some more college football, man? You should check us out tomorrow at K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. We're on from 10 o'clock until 11 o'clock Eastern time. It's Central time, actually, 11 o'clock Eastern time. We're on the Coastal Sports Network, not to mention, of course, VEASAN. We're working to get on there. Brent Musburger's network. We're trying to get on that bad boy here sometime in 26, and that would be huge for us. And of course, Audacity as well.
I'll be in Vegas from the 21st through the 27th. So get me a name. I'll go bother
21st through 27th of November or December?
Oh, December.
December. Okay, I'm going to write you down right here because
get me an appointment. I'm like Jerry Maguire. I'm the Lord of the living room. Get me in the door. Nobody else gets me in the door.
Is it Caesars has got the podcast center now? What's the string?
No, they're Circa.
The Circa. The Circa, and just like
Circa's
one podcast.
The ultimate sports property
one
out there.
All right, my man. I will check you out tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Central on F4 Wednesday. Check out TKR, and of course, wherever you get all your favorite podcasts, you can listen, of course, to Need to Know and Keefer and Kurre every Monday through Friday, at least 5 times a week, and wherever you get your favorite podcast. I love you, brother. Happy Thanksgiving to you early, and we'll catch up tomorrow.
Same to you, Tony. And if things don't work out with the rutabagas and the turkey necks or whatever, you're welcome to come to Ruth's Chris for a real Thanksgiving dinner Thursday afternoon.
I appreciate it. Thank you, brother.
All right, man.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.